we will talk about the Jupyter Notebook application. When you install the latest version of Python from the Anaconda distribution website, it includes Python, the Jupyter Notebook, and a number of useful packages. Let us now discuss about the Jupyter Notebook application. A Jupyter Notebook application is a server client application that allows us to edit and run notebook documents via a web browser. And what is a notebook document? A notebook document is just like a file that lets us write and execute Python code in a web browser. And a Jupyter Notebook app can be executed on a local desktop requiring no internet access, or it can be installed on a remote server and accessed through the internet. The Jupyter Notebook web application combines three components. One is the notebook web application, and then we have a kernel and notebook documents. When you launch the Jupyter Notebook application, the first component that we see in the web browser is the Jupyter Notebook dashboard. And the dashboard is like a control panel showing local files. Say we have files like datatypes.ipynb and then list.ipynb. And the notebook dashboard allows us to open the notebook documents here or shutting down their kernels. So what is a kernel? A notebook kernel is a computational engine that executes the code contained in a notebook document. So the notebook document is a file, whereas the kernel is a process. The kernel performs the computation and produces the results. So the kernel receives snippets of code from the notebook interface, executes them, and sends the outputs or possible errors back to the notebook interface. And the Jupyter Notebook is not only for Python. It can be used for other programming languages like R, Julia, MATLAB, and other languages as well. And all the files, the notebook documents, are saved in JSON formatted text file with this extension .ipynb. Next, I'm going to now show how to launch the Jupyter Notebook server from the command line. So at the command prompt, you need to type Jupyter space notebook and then hit enter in your Windows system. If this is your first time, it is going to take a while. After you give this command, your browser will open to the notebook dashboard automatically. If this does not happen automatically, so as you can see here, the highlighted text, copy and paste this URL into your browser when you connect for the first time. So I'm going to copy this URL along with the token key and paste it in the browser. And after I have pasted the URL provided in the command line, here is the notebook dashboard, and the notebook dashboard serves as a home page for the notebook. As we have discussed before, its main purpose is to display the notebooks and the files in the current directory. By default, the Files tab here is open, and when you are in this tab, you can display the different files that you have worked on, as we can see here. Next is the running tab, and the running tab is used to see all of the running notebooks along with their directories. So currently I have no notebook open, and so there are no files that are running. Create a notebook or a file to start working. So for that, click on the button new here, and I have two kernels installed. One is for Python 2 and the other is for Python 3. And I want to create a file for Python 3. So let's choose Python 3, and here is the notebook document. And the notebook document contains the menu bar, the toolbar, and cells. The cells that we see here. So let us first give a title to our notebook document. So I'm going to say Jupyter Notebook class, and then click on rename. So here we have a title for the notebook. Next, coming to the code cell here. The code cells are where you place your Python code that you want to run. And markdown cells are used for providing descriptions of the code and the steps that we are taking. And the type of the cell. If you want to enter code that is Python code in a cell, by default the code type would be code. If you want to enter text into your code cell, you can choose the type markdown. So let's choose the type as code for this cell, and all code that you write in a notebook will be in this code cell. We can write single lines or entire loops to complete functions. Let us write a print function in this code cell. Hello world is the text that I want to display using the print function. So in order to execute the code in this cell, you can go to the menu bar here and click on cell and then run cells. So here you have your output displayed just below the input cell. So here we have our output displayed. We can change the code in an input cell and rerun the cell as often as we like. Say for example, I want to print the sum of 2 and 3. And then run the cell, go to cell here at the top and run. Choose run cells. So here we have the output displayed in the output cell. And if you want to create a new cell, you can click on shift and enter together to create a new cell. And you can also use the buttons shift and enter in order to execute the code in a cell. I want to print the text in the cell. I can use the shift and enter buttons to execute the code in this cell. Next, in the notebook document, each of the code cells has a line number assigned to it. Next, apart from typing your code in a code cell, you can also add descriptions or text in a code cell by changing the type of the cell to markdown. Say for example, if you want to add a title to the code that you're going to enter, you can use the single hashtag like this and then give a space and then enter your text. Say I'm going to add the text title and then hit shift and enter. So here's your title. Say for example, you want to add major headings in your notebook document. You can use double hashtags, and for that you first need to change the code type to markdown and then use double hashtags and enter your text. I'm going to say major headings and then execute this. So you have your major headings beginning with 2 hashtags, and if you want to have some subheadings in your notebook documents, you can use 3 hashtags like this and then have your text here, subheading, change your code type to markdown and execute. So this is how you can enter descriptive text into your notebook document. When you execute the code in a cell, the code is executed within a kernel and any output is returned back to the cell, which is to be displayed. So every notebook runs a kernel. Next, the Jupyter Notebook gives us several options to export our notebook. Say for example, you can go to the File menu here, choose Download As, and we can convert our Jupyter.pythonb notebook file into another static format including HTML, LaTeX, PDF, Markdown, and so on. Another function of the Jupyter Notebook is the ability to create checkpoints. By creating a checkpoint, we are storing the current state of the notebook so that we can later on go back to this checkpoint and revert the changes which have been made to the notebook in the meantime. So in order to create a checkpoint, go to File and then choose Save and Checkpoint. So here we have a text displayed last checkpoint a few seconds ago for this notebook document. And if you want to shut down the Jupyter Notebook app, closing the browser will not close the Jupyter Notebook app. In order to completely shut it down, you can go to File and then choose Close and Halt. Or alternately, you can go to the Notebook dashboard. In the Notebook dashboard, go to the tab Running, and here you have the list of notebook documents that are running. So we have the Jupyter Notebook class.pythonb file that we were working on, and if you want to close the kernel associated with this notebook, you can click on Shutdown button as you can see here. For example, if you want to interrupt a code that is taking too long, you can use the kernel and click on the interrupt option in order to shut down a kernel.